Robert Bellarmine. Saint Robert Bellarmine, S.J., Italian, Roberto Francesco Romolo Bellarmino, October 4, 1542, September 17, 1621, was an Italian Jesuit and a cardinal of the Catholic Church. He was canonized a saint in 1930 and named Doctor of the Church, one of only 36. He was one of the most important figures in the Counter-Reformation. Bellarmine was a professor of theology and later rector of the Roman College, and in 1602 became Archbishop of Capua. He supported the reform decrees of the Council of Trent. He is also widely remembered for his role in the Giordano Bruno affair, the Galileo affair, and the trial of Friar Fulgencio Manfredi. Early life. Bellarmine was born at Montepulciano, the son of noble, albeit impoverished, parents, Vincenzo Bellarmino and his wife Cinzia Cervini, who was the sister of Pope Marcellus II. As a boy he knew Virgil by heart and composed a number of poems in Italian and Latin. One of his hymns, On Mary Magdalene, is included in the Roman Breviary. He entered the Roman Jesuit novitiate in 1560, remaining in Rome 3 years. He then went to a Jesuit house at Mondovi, in Piedmont, where he learned Greek. While at Mondovi, he came to the attention of Francesco Adorno, the local Jesuit provincial superior, who sent him to the University of Padua. Career. Bellarmine's systematic studies of theology began at Padua in 1567 and 1568, where his teachers were adherents of Thomism. In 1569 he was sent to finish his studies at the University of Leuven in Flanders. There he was ordained, and obtained a reputation both as a professor and as a preacher. He was the first Jesuit to teach at the university, where the subject of his course was the Summa Theologica of Thomas Aquinas. His residency in Leuven lasted 7 years. In poor health, in 1576 he made a journey to Italy. Here he remained, commissioned by Pope Gregory XIII to lecture on polemical theology in the new Roman College, now known as the Pontifical Gregorian University. Later, he would promote the cause of the beatification of Aloysius Gonzaga, who had been a student at the college during Bellarmine's tenure. New duties after 1589. Until 1589, Bellarmine was occupied as professor of theology. After the murder in that year of Henry III of France, Pope Sixtus V sent Enrico Cattani as legate to Paris to negotiate with the Catholic League of France, and chose Bellarmine to accompany him as theologian. He was in the city during its siege by Henry of Navarre. The next pope, Clement VIII, said of him, "The Church of God had not his equal in learning." Bellarmine was made rector of the Roman College in 1592, examiner of bishops in 1598, and cardinal in 1599. Immediately after his appointment as cardinal, Pope Clement made him a cardinal inquisitor, in which capacity he served as one of the judges at the trial of Giordano Bruno, and concurred in the decision which condemned Bruno to be burned at the stake as a heretic. Upon the death of Pope Sixtus V in 1590, the Count of Olivares wrote to King Philip III of Spain, "Bellarmine would not do for a pope, for he is mindful only of the interests of the Church and is unresponsive to the reasons of princes." In 1602 he was made Archbishop of Capua. He had written against pluralism and non-residence of bishops within their dioceses. As bishop he put into effect the reforming decrees of the Council of Trent. He received some votes in the 1605 conclaves which elected Pope Leo XI, Pope Paul V, and in 1621 when Pope Gregory XV was elected. But his being a Jesuit stood against him in the judgment of many of the cardinals. Thomas Hobbes saw Bellarmine in Rome at a service on All Saints' Day, 1st of November, 1614 and, exempting him alone from a general castigation of cardinals, described him as a little lean old man who lived more retired. The Galileo case. In 1616, on the orders of Paul V, Bellarmine summoned Galileo, notified him of a forthcoming decree of the Congregation of the Index condemning the Copernican doctrine of the mobility of the Earth and the immobility of the Sun, and ordered him to abandon it. Galileo agreed to do so. When Galileo later complained of rumors to the effect that he had been forced to abjure and do penance, Bellarmine wrote out a certificate denying the rumors, stating that Galileo had merely been notified of the decree and informed that, as a consequence of it, the Copernican doctrine could not be defended or held. Unlike the previously mentioned formal injunction, see earlier footnote, this certificate would have allowed Galileo to continue using and teaching the mathematical content of Copernicus's theory as a purely theoretical device for predicting the apparent motions of the planets. According to some of his letters, Cardinal Bellarmine believed that a demonstration for heliocentrism could not be found because it would contradict the unanimous consent of the Fathers' scriptural exegesis, to which the Council of Trent, in 1546, defined all Catholics must adhere. In other passages, Bellarmine argued that he did not support the heliocentric model for the lack of evidence of the time. "I will not believe that there is such a demonstration, until it is shown me." Bellarmine wrote to heliocentrist Paolo Antonio Foscarini in 1615. And in 1633, nearly 12 years after Bellarmine's death, Galileo was again called before the Inquisition in this matter. Galileo produced Bellarmine's certificate for his defense at the trial. In his article on Bellarmine in the Complete Dictionary of Scientific Biography, Aaron McMullen cites Pierre Duhem and Karl Popper as prominent adherents to an often repeated view that in one respect, at least, Bellarmine had shown himself a better scientist than Galileo, insofar as he supposedly denied that a strict proof of the Earth's motion could be possible on the grounds that an astronomical theory merely saves the appearances without necessarily revealing what really happens. McMullen himself emphatically rejects that view as untenable. Death. Bellarmine retired to the Jesuit College of St. Andrew in Rome, where he died on September 17, 1621, aged 78. Works. Bellarmine's books bear the stamp of their period. The effort for literary elegance, so-called mirabilia, had given place to a desire to pile up as much material as possible, to embrace the whole field of human knowledge, and incorporate it into theology. His controversial works provoked many replies, and were studied for some decades after his death. At Leuven he made extensive studies in the Church Fathers and scholastic theologians, which gave him the material for his book De Scripturibus Ecclesiasticis, Rome, 1613. It was later revised and enlarged by Sermond, Labius, and Casimir Dan. Bellarmine wrote the preface to the new Sixto-Clementine Vulgate. Dogmatics. From his research grew Disputations de Controversiis Christiani Fidei, also called Controversiae, first published at Ingolstadt in 1581–1593. This major work was the earliest attempt to systematize the various religious disputes between Catholics and Protestants. Bellarmine calmly and fairly reviewed the issues and devoted 11 years to it while at the Roman College. In August 1590 Pope Sixtus V decided to place the first volume of the Disputations on the index because Bellarmine argued in it that the Pope is not the temporal ruler of the whole world and that temporal rulers do not derive their authority to rule from God but from the consent of the governed. However, Sixtus died before the revised index was published, and the next Pope, Urban VII, removed the book from the index during his brief 12-day reign. In 1597 he wrote the Catechism, Doctrina Christiana, in 2 versions, short and full, which has been translated to 50 languages, becoming one of the greatest bestsellers and the official teaching of the Church in the 17th to 19th centuries. Venetian Interdict. Under Pope Paul V, reigned 1605–1621, a major conflict arose between Venice and the papacy. Paolo Sarpi, as spokesman for the Republic of Venice, protested against the papal interdict, and reasserted the principles of the Council of Constance and of the Council of Basel, denying the Pope's authority in secular matters. Bellarmine wrote 3 rejoinders to the Venetian theologians, and may have warned Sarpi of an impending murderous attack, when in September 1607, an unfrocked friar and brigand by the name of Rotilio Orlandini planned to kill Sarpi for the sum of 8,000 crowns. Orlandini's plot was discovered, and when he and his accomplices crossed from papal into Venetian territory they were arrested. Allegiance oath controversy and papal authority. Bellarmine also became involved in controversy with King James I of England. From a point of principle for English Catholics, this debate drew in figures from much of Western Europe. It raised the profile of both protagonists, King James as a champion of his own restricted Calvinist Protestantism, and Bellarmine for Tridentine Catholicism. Devotional works. During his retirement, he wrote several short books intended to help ordinary people in their spiritual life: De Ascensione Mentis in Deum Prescalis Rerum Creatorum Opusculum, The Mind's Ascent to God, 1614, which was translated into English as Jacob's Letter, 1638, Without Acknowledgement by Henry Isaacson, The Art of Dying Well, 1619, in Latin, English translation under this title by Edward Coffin, and The 7 Words on the Cross. Canonization and Final Resting Place. Bellarmine was canonized by Pope Pius XI in 1930, The following year he was declared a doctor of the Church. His remains, in a cardinal's red robes, are displayed behind glass under a side altar in the Church of St. Ignatius, the chapel of the Roman College, next to the body of his student, St. Aloysius Gonzaga, as he himself had wished. In the general Roman calendar, St. Robert Bellarmine's feast day is on 17th of September, the day of his death, but some continue to use pre-1969 calendars, in which for 37 years his feast day was on 13th of May. The rank assigned to his feast has been double, 1932 to 1959, third-class feast, 1960 to 1968, and since the 1969 revision memorial. Legacy. Bellarmine University in Louisville, Kentucky, is named after him, as are Bellarmine College Preparatory in San Jose, California, St. Robert Bellarmine Parish in Chicago, Illinois, and Bellarmine Preparatory School in Tacoma, Washington. St. Joseph's University, Fairfield University, and Seattle University all have a Bellarmine Hall dedicated to the saint. The Jesuit Sogang University in Seoul, South Korea, has a Bellarmino dormitory, named after the saint's Italian name. The Ateneo de Manila University, another Jesuit institution in the Philippines, also has a Bellarmine Hall, which serves as a classroom building and home of the university press. St. Robert Bellarmine Church in Bayside Hills, Queens County, New York, of the Diocese of Brooklyn, was the original site of Our Lady of the Roses Shrine where the alleged Marian apparitions to Veronica Lucan occurred. Veronica Lucan's apparitions were condemned as contrary to the faith of the Catholic Church by Bishop Francis Mugavero of the Diocese of Brooklyn. St. Robert Bellarmine Church in Warrington, Pennsylvania, in the Archdiocese of Philadelphia, is also the site of St. Joseph's/St. Robert's School, a K-8 grade private, Roman Catholic school, a K-8 grade private, Roman Catholic school, a K-8